The thing about our whole project is, it is a massive project. We have taken on an enormous amount. We're trying to set up a museum. We've got 3 aircraft to restore, so that we've got 1 of each. Nobody else is doing that, and it's volunteers, and it's only on weekends. The flagship at the moment, obviously, is 597. The biggest part of getting the 2 really biggest parts of getting this back together are restoring the surface finish, because it's been sat outside for so long, and getting the systems back up and working. Again, because it's been sat for a long time, the damp gets in, the oil gets sticky and horrible, and the corrosion gets in. One thing we found is that this wing, the paint on top of this wing, is incredibly baked on, and we don't know why. The other wing took probably 2 Sundays for one guy to sand back to an acceptable finish. This so far has absorbed probably a month of Sundays for several people. There must be 20, 25 man days so far to get 80% of the wing sanded back. But as I said, the other one only took a couple of days. And it's been the same with the leading edges. This leading edge flap, me and my lad spent an afternoon to get this down to an acceptable finish. The other side was done in an hour. Whether it was where it was sat facing the sun, whether it was how it was painted originally, we don't know. But this has absorbed so much energy to get rid of all this old. The white paint is so badly crazed that we need to get it back and need to get it down. It also gives us access so we can see if there's any corrosion hiding under the paint. The main wing structure itself isn't too bad for that, but these removable panels, there's one here and one here. You can see these are badly corroded. These will have to get taken off and then get sanded back and treated. We use an acid treatment to neutralise the corrosion before they go back on. Potentially even that one may have to fabricate a replacement panel if that corrosion goes too deep. As I say, it's a big piece of tin, it's a big aeroplane, and the paint is thick and hard. You can look on the white at the back there, you can see how badly crazed it is. That's what the weather has done to the paint over the 25 years or more that it's just been sat outside, and that's really hard to sand back, but we need to get it back. Once all that's done, then once we've treated the corrosion and any damage, it'll be a coat of X primer over the top. That's pretty much it for the surface finish. It will be restored back to these iconic colours. I know people say, oh, I hope it's going to go original. Well, it was originally this colour, this dark sea grey. The whole aircraft was that colour originally. So it won't be going to its original colours, but it will be going back to these iconic red, white and blue AA, EE colours. We mapped and recorded it all before we started sanding, and we have well over 100 photographs of the aircraft as reference. The aim is, and always has been, to return the aircraft to functioning condition. We don't have engines for it, so we'll put that one to bed. It's never going to fly again, so we can put that one to bed. But everything else is intended to work. And one of the areas I'm working on is getting the outer wings back and recommissioning the outer wings. So these have been cleaned up, repainted, and all the wing lock and unlock mechanism is inside. That's all been restored and ready to rebuild into it. And then our aim over the winter is to get hydraulic power onto the aircraft and electrical power onto the aircraft, so we can get the outer wings refitted and be able to fold and spread them. In the similar vein, we've been working on the leading edge flaps, so we can get those, get the whole flap system working again, although we do run into some nasty little issues with corrosion. Guys have been working along here, reconnecting all the wiring. So they identified all the wiring, chased it all through and got it all reconnected. Some of the wiring is purely for when it was a trials aircraft, so we don't actually need that. And some of this is for flight use only. So again, we don't need that, but it will still be in there. There's a lot of stuff to go in here. You'll never believe the amount of stuff that fits in behind there. All the hydraulic pipes. We didn't take the aircraft apart. So unfortunately, a lot of stuff that was removed just came in big bags or in boxes. So we then have to clean everything and try and identify it. Luckily, a lot of the pipes still have ID labels on them, but not all of them. So then you're into just getting a big handful of pipes and seeing which one will fit between those 2 points. It's long and it's slow, but you know, nobody ever said it was going to be easy. There are parts of it that won't work again. Some of the stuff that was removed, some of the trials stuff, and some of the flight stuff, the automatic flying systems, things like that, won't be putting any time or effort into getting those working because it's not going to fly again. But things like the undercarriage, the flying controls, everything else, I don't see the point in doing this project if we don't have it as a working aircraft. I really don't see the point otherwise. That's always been my goal. That's what I've always driven towards, is to get it working again. One interesting point about it is the sheer number of colours it's been. This is a nice little example. You can see on here, there's the original metal, primer, dark sea grey, another coat of primer, then white, and then the blue over the top. There are places on the aircraft where there is in fact a whole extra layer of paint as well that have been painted more than once. But when people say, what colour was it originally? It was this dark sea grey. Later on it had a red fin and red outer wings, but the red, white and blue colour scheme actually came on quite a bit later in its life. And you can see that on the fin. When you look at this side of the fin, that dark grey is under the red. So that's what colour it was originally. And that hasn't even been sanded yet, all that red just flaked off. So that dark grey there, that is its original colour. The underside's the worst. Unfortunately, there's a lot of corrosion underneath on the aircraft around here, so quite a lot of these panels will have to be taken off and then replicated because they're too far gone to save. That's one of the major structural parts, and same with the undercarriage as well. At some point we'll have to jack the aircraft up, put it on trestles, basically on stands, and then get the undercarriage off so we can restore the undercarriage bay. That would be, if you want, phase 3 of the restoration, is getting all this underside done. Once it's all working, having said that, probably have to take it apart, parts of it apart, just to get it freed off. But this is, underneath here, this is what has suffered the worst from the corrosion and the bad weather, because it holds the damp inside it. One of the things we've been working on lately is getting the tailplane back on again, what's known as a stabilator, it's an all-flying tailplane. But as always with these projects, I got up there a month or more back, started cleaning up the back end, getting everything ready to hang on, rehang the stabilator. Found a problem with the rudder was seized. Then we got the rudder off, then we found that rudder, the hinge points for the rudder were so badly corroded we couldn't reuse them. Now fortunately we do have access to a spare rudder, so one of our guys, Martin, he's had both rudders, and between those two rudders he's making one good one that will end up back on here. And again, when we took the rudder off, we found that on the fin, on the panel that runs down, that closes in the back of the fin, more corrosion that's going to have to be cut away and dealt with. But that's just the thing when you're dealing with these older aircraft, is you take 2 steps forwards and you trip over and find that you're lying in a pile of corrosion. There's more to do. So, but like eating an elephant, one bite at a time, and we'll get there. We've got some jet pipes to fit in for the look of it. We haven't got any engines. There's only one working spare in the country that I know of. But we do have some jet pipes that we managed to get from a scrapyard. With a little bit of work, we can make 2 good looking jet pipes that will fit in the back, say purely for cosmetic purposes. So the thing with 360, ZE360, the last remaining F4J, that's in RAF colours, it was parked outside with no canopies on, near the sea for a long time. When we got this, there was 6 inches of sand and seagull poo in the bottom of the cockpits. I mean, 2 guys, bless them, got masked up and spent 2 days just digging all the sand and weeds and everything else out of the bottoms of the cockpits. Literally 6 inches deep in sand and dirt and weed and poop. And that has wreaked a tremendous amount of damage. You can see the amount of, well, it's a wreck. It's suffered in several ways. It was never burned, luckily. but there were fires next to it, which has caused some damage, which is why that windscreen's missing where the light is at the moment, and I can show you that in a bit. You'll show the damage that was done to it. We're very fortunate that we've got a brand new replacement to go in there. Incredible piece of luck. But the weather has taken a tremendous amount of toll on the actual structure of the aircraft. You can see how it's over here, how the corrosion. So the current work that's going on here is to strip these cockpits out completely right back to the structure. Sounds fairly straightforward, but every bolt, every nut, every fastener is corroded in. And what would have been a 10, 15 minute or maybe an hour job back in the day turns into a 2-day job just to remove this control run here for unlocking the cockpits. Back when I worked on these, we could have had that out in under an hour. Now, I did the one on one of the other aircraft, and it took me over a day because everything is corroded in, everything is seized up solid. It's, you can't move things to get access. It's just a nightmare, and we are very mindful of not cutting through anything. We're trying to save as much of this as we possibly can because it keeps it as original as we can, and it also saves money in the long run. So that's one of the major problems it's had, is its exposure. The second major problem it's had is the fact that before we got our hands on it, it was robbed out. So the instrument panel robbed out by somebody. All the radar screens have been robbed out. One of the worst cases of vandalism was somebody tried to get the throttles out of it, basically by cutting through from the outside with a big saw and through the top. So they've chopped through part of the cockpit over there, and I can show you some of that damage that was done. So that's one of the other major issues, is that other people have tried to rob parts out of it. So the corrosion and that, and the fire damage, the corrosion, and then other people's attempts to take stuff, and where they've cut through for no real reason. They'll have cut through wiring looms, trying to get things out, rather than if the plug was a bit difficult, or in some cases just for sheer vandalism. I don't know. This is the worst one of them, but so this is very much as many steps backwards as you can possibly imagine, just to try and get everything out, everything labelled and stored away, so we can get on with actually repairing the structure and making it sound and preserving it for the future. Everything that's then removed will be stripped, cleaned, rebuilt, restored, tested and put away, ready for reinstallation at a point in the future. Again, the idea is that the cockpit will function. We'll put power on the aircraft, everything will light up, all the instrumentation will work. There are some things that are never going to work again because we're not allowed to, or because they're part of the flying system, and obviously, as I said before, none of these are ever going to fly again. We have had some incredible strokes of luck with people. There's a lot of love for us out there. One guy got in touch with an absolute truck full of spares, one of which was a brand new, never been fitted screen to fit in here. That's tucked away very safely. And our last open day the open day in April, somebody said, you need to speak to this chap. There's a chap based in Barrow-in-Furness who, in the most phenomenally generous, donated an entire front instrument panel, fully populated with instruments. So I then drove up and collected one weekend. So I mean, that saved us probably years of heartache trying to find one, and a huge amount of money. Incredibly generous donation. Things like the stick. We've been donated a stick by one of the pilots who's just gathering dust on his shelf. Ejection seats are going to be fun to find because they're US Navy spec ejection seats. But like everything else, I'm a firm believer in good luck, and things will come out of the woodwork as and when we need them. There's a lot of stuff still out there, and a lot of stuff does seem to come our way.